Maseches Nedarim Daf Tzadi Aleph is the last daf in the Masechta. It discusses what happens when a woman tries to get out of her marriage. Do we believe her or not? And how does the case which we are going to bring up relate to our last Mishnah? We'll have a machlokes, how it fits in our last Mishnah, and then two potential proofs from the Mishnah. And then we'll have 4 stories about women who try to get out of their marriage by claiming something happened. Now, in our Mishnah, we had seen what happens if a woman claims that she is usher to her husband, he's a Kohen, and she's saying that she was raped. So there we said at first, what we call the Mishnah Rishona, she was believed. And then later we said she could be just trying to escape the marriage, so they stopped believing her. She has to bring a proof that she was raped, otherwise she's not trusted. So now the Gemara asks, what happens if she, instead of saying that she was raped and therefore she's usher to her husband, she says her husband divorced her, and she says it to his face. She says, you divorced me. So here we have a machlokes. What do we say in this case? Rav Hamnuna says is that even in our later psak, in our Mishnah Achrona, in our later case, in the later psak in the Mishnah where we said that even in the case where she says that I was raped and therefore I'm usher to my husband, we said we don't believe her. The reason we do not believe her there is because we're assuming that she's lying because she's trying to get out of the marriage, and there's no special reason that we should believe her. Here in this case, though, she's saying to her husband's face that she was divorced. She has that level of brazenness to lie to his face. There's no way she could lie to his face, and he knows full well that what he's saying, that what she's saying is not true. Therefore, we have an extra support here. She wouldn't lie straight to his face where he knows that it's not true, and therefore, even in Mishnah Achrona, even in our Mishnah in the last psak, where we did not agree, where we assumed that she was lying, here we would say that she is telling the truth because she has this extra support that she couldn't lie to her husband's face. In the Mishnah's case, we had no extra support. The husband had no way of knowing whether or not it's true that she was raped or not. Therefore, according to Rav Hamnuna, in this case where she says to her husband, you divorced me, we would believe her. Now, Rava says the opposite. Rava says even in the first psak in our Mishnah, where we believed her, that was only because there was a support to her words, and that is when she says that she was raped, she's saying something that's disgraceful, it's embarrassing to her. If she's willing to say that, it must be true. She wouldn't say that if it was a lie. Here in this case, though, she's just saying that she's divorced. Even the Mishnah Rishona would not believe her. All right, now the Gemara wants to say that we can bring a proof to one of these two sides from another case in the Mishnah. The Mishnah had the case where she says that her husband is, she says, Hashemayim beini leveinecha, the heaven will speak between you and I, meaning to say, she says that her husband's zera is not yorkechet, it does not come out with enough force to be able to create a child, and therefore they cannot stay together, and therefore he has to divorce her. So again, the Mishnah said that at first we believed her, and then later we changed to not believing her any longer. So the Gemara says at first we believed her, but according to Rava, the only reason we believed her is because she's saying something that's embarrassing. But this is not embarrassing. Why should she be concerned about saying something like that? So the Gemara answers, no, Rava will tell you that it is embarrassing because she has to actually spell it out. They don't let her hide behind the words, heaven will decide it between you and I. She has to actually spell it out to the Beis Din and say that it's not Yorkechetz, it doesn't fly like an arrow. Alright, now the Gemara says that the end of the Mishnah seems to be a proof against the other approach. It seems to be a proof against Rav Hamnuna, because the end of the Mishnah, it says that in the case of not Yorkechetz, where she says Shemayim beini veinecha, that we don't believe her. Now, according to Rav Hamnuna, the only reason that we do not believe her about the rape is because the husband has no way of knowing, and therefore she can lie to him. But here, the husband should know that it's not Yorkechetz. So the answer is no, a man cannot tell if the zera is Yorkechetz, only the woman can tell that, and therefore he doesn't know that whether or not she is lying, and Rav Hamnuna would say that it's the exact same thing, and he doesn't know, therefore she has no extra support to prove that she is telling the truth. Alright, now the Gemara goes into 4 stories. The Gemara says there was a lady who her minig was she used to, that on the morning after Tashmish she would get up early before her husband and bring him water to wash his hands. One morning she brought him water to wash his hands, and he said, what is this for? We didn't do anything last night. So she said, if you didn't do anything, somebody else must have, because I definitely did. It must have been one of the merchants, one of the Nachri merchants around who are selling perfumes. He must have pretended to be you, and I thought it was you, and now we have a problem. The Mefarshim explained that he was a Kohen, and therefore, even if it was B'shogig on her part, she would be usher to him. So the Gemara says, Rav Nachman paskined not to believe her, not to worry about what she said. This whole thing with the hand washing was all a charade, because she wanted to claim that she was usher on her husband so that she could get out of this marriage. Now, second story was a lady who was walking around in a bad mood. She was snapping at her husband. So he said, "What's going on? What is this all about? Why are you giving me the cold shoulder?" So she said, "Because you caused me a lot of pain last night when we were mishamish." So he said, "I wasn't mishamish you last night. We didn't do anything last night." So she said, "Well, if it wasn't you, must have been one of these nachri merchants around that sell kerosene who was pretending to be you and was impersonating you." So again, the psak was that it was Rav Nachman who said, "Don't listen to her. It's all a charade. She's trying to claim that she's usher and her husband, but really it's not true." Now, third story was that there was a man who was miyached. He was alone with a woman in her house, and then her husband came home. And the guy ran out and he ran through the hedge, and he did it in such a way that the husband could see him. So Rava said, she's mutter. You don't have to be afraid that she's asur on him, because if he really had done a ma'aseh, he would not have let himself be seen and running away in front of the husband. He would have hid and waited to escape at a different time. Now, the fourth and final story is that there was a lady who was home with a strange man, and again the husband came home. This time the guy didn't run away. He hid behind the door, and the husband came into the room, not aware that this guy was behind the door, and he wanted to eat some of the dates that were on the table. Now the other guy hiding behind the door had known that a snake had eaten from the dates, which means there was now poison in the dates. And when the husband reached for the dates, he called out from his hiding place and he said, "Don't touch the dates, a snake ate from it, it'll kill you if you do." So Rava said the woman is permitted. We don't have any tzad that he did anything, because if he was a naif, if he was willing to be mizana with an ashes ish, he would never have tried to save the guy's life. Somebody who is suspect of adultery is also suspect on murder or allowing someone at least to die, like the pasuk says, "Kini efu v'dam bidehem v'ezgiluleim di efu v'gam esmaneim asher yolduli haviru lehem la'acha." So you put niyuf together with blood, that by violating niyuf, that means that person is also suspect on not saving the guy's life. So the Gemara says, obviously, pshita, if he wants his wife, he'd be very happy for him to die. But says, no, you may think that because there's more pleasure in doing something asar, like it says, "Mayim genuvim yom takov v'lachem sesarim yinaim," stolen waters are sweeter. So maybe he wants the woman to stay asar to him. He wants her husband to stay alive so that it could be sweeter by being asar. Therefore, the chiddush that Rava is teaching us is that's not true. He doesn't know that it tastes better because it's forbidden. He just wants to marry her and continue this relationship, and he would be happy if the husband would die. Hadran alach mesechus nedarim, hadran chalon, datan alach mesechus nedarim, v'datan chalon, lo nisna shem milach mesechus nedarim, lo sisna shem milan, lo ba'al medain, lo ba'al